So with my friend Pepper, I do not hate technology. I need to say that in advance. I was looking up all the keywords that people love who have gone through abundance and singularity and computers and machines, and they are hoping that artificial intelligence is not going to run us over and so on. I think it's like Nuria said, there is a gap in the canyon. I think on the other hand is AI standing, and on this hand it's us, the humans. Do we need to be scared about it or not? I don't know. Do we need to hack humanity? Could be, but might in a different way. I'm also a psychoanalyst. I've been working in big corporates more than 15 years. I also worked in investment banking. At the time, it was like the holy grail, so I know tough business. And I consult a lot of managers today as a coach. So I know what happens in companies. It's not a theoretical game. But let me do a little experiment. Do me a favor, imagine a tree. I assume you thought of a tree like that. Or did you think about that? I can tell you that there are many corporates, especially the big four ones from the Silicon Valley, who love those trees because you can cut them boldly. I mean, they want people to bring in their data and then to make something with it. A big tree that is uncontrollable is somehow dangerous for them. And I realized by reading a lot of books last year, because I was hurt with my foot, I wouldn't live in the artificial intelligence age because they would have eliminated me. I had crippled feet, that's why I had to warm up to walk now. So if they can't cut you boldly, then it's difficult to work with you in the current organization. I think a lot of you know a lot about organizational development. There is two worlds actually discussed. There is this old world that is about hierarchy, competition, and there is the new world, they call it teal, however you want to call it. It's about cooperation. The thing is that comes with age and with life experience is something else than power, prestige. I have a lot of clients that are also between 40 and 55. They have achieved everything. They have power, prestige, big cars. They consumed a lot, but at some stage it's empty. The question there is, what am I? If you have your neighbors around, how does my house look and so on, that's all about what am I? It's appearance and consumption. Management there is to put your resources as effective as you can. There is another tradition where wisdom, empathy and cooperation counts. Reflection and survival of the best is the thing that counts, and an authentic self is important. There the question is, who am I? It's about leadership there. It's about the most sustainable and holistic allocation of resources that you have. Now, as in every system, I don't want to lie at you, there is a downside to it. The challenge for organizations in the old world was and is fear, humiliation, zero error culture and tolerance is a problem. You will feel ashamed if you have a burnout, if you have a problem at home, if you can't produce what you should produce, and conflicts are arising out of that. Psychology could prove you that now come these awful words I can't say so well, but blind obedience, the fact that you obey the people who set your goals, will make that you identify with the heads of companies and states. And if you can't be one of the powerful ones, you will become one who identifies with them. You will need the same cars, the same furniture, and you aren't free to think anymore. You will be one of these boldly cut trees. If you live in the other model, then it is very demanding. Maturity is something that you need in teal organization. When I read all the book about organizational development and the wonders of the Silicon Valley, I can tell you as a psychoanalyst, there is a very high demand of people who have lived through bad times. Google is even hiring them. They look for critical life events. That's something that happened to you that was really bad. And then they know that these people communicate better, that they are more smooth and they have more empathy. So if we go in that direction, we will need a new set of skills and a new way of thinking. So the human factor, we have talked about, it will be required on all those things, but you will have to reconsider meaning and happiness. You will have to think about purpose. You will need a creativity that exceeds whatever is thinkable today in many companies. And the problem is that even Steve quoted already today, who hired on average male, white, 42-year-old geeks, couldn't deliver. We will need people who have experienced life and who have also been exposed to vulnerable moments and who can talk about it. And that's something that we miss today. You will need to manage personal development and your time. The question is, how will you use your time? Because according to Silicon Valley, you will be living 120 years. That's a very long time. According to all the experts before, you won't be hired all the time. So you will have to reinvent yourself. Let's say, I don't believe in this every 5 years. I mean, no one could. But every 10, 15 years, you will have to reinvent yourself and to think what has changed in my life. You will need to be able to reflect what you have done and learned. And this is something that we don't learn today. If you go to school, and when I went to school, even in HSG, we wouldn't learn that. No one has ever learned us to look at us, to reflect what has happened to us and what it brought us. I think one of the biggest skills that will be required in future is this reflection. You need to be able to market what you've gone through, what it has taught you, and how you can use it. So what should HR do in that? I think for the few people who will still have a job, because that no one has mentioned to date. There are very few people having jobs in the future if you don't reinvent you really broadly. So for the few people with jobs, they will have to think of a new leadership model that is based on inner strengths. Because as Dan said in the beginning, people look first to their mentors and bosses. I see a lot of bosses and bosses of bosses, and there aren't so many bosses above. I can tell you there isn't so much to look up what is regarding inner strengths. I'm sorry if some of my clients are here. The ones who come to me, they learn it. And then you also need to make sure, I mean, this is independent, but it has to do with this inner strengths and knowledge. You need to make sure that you know how artificial intelligence is going to shape the future. As a psychoanalyst, I think, yes, we have to hack humans, but inwards. They think outwards. I will give you artificial limbs, you can shoot in whatever is your phone, and you might can learn a language overnight. Could all be, I'm going to finish in 10 seconds. But I think you have to see what is the biases programmed in with artificial intelligence, and you have to make sure that leaders think about it and ensure that the guidelines are followed, so that we just don't have to, at a certain moment, all to swallow some sensors and then being monitored, and you have a watch, no longer a watch, but I know where you are, and so on. So I think HR should take an active role in it, and yeah, and learn self-limitation, go inward. Thank you.
Thank you.